This film was made in 1962. It was called The Offchurch Story, and the main reason for making it was to raise money for the church. The tractor coming towards us is being driven by Bill Jones. He used to live in Holly Cottage. There's Mrs. Ough with her dog. She was the wife of Beernard Ough, who was doing the filming. Approaching Offchurch from Radford, we go under the old railway bridge and over the canal bridge. And the first house we see is Berry Lodge, and there's Mr. Maycock, the butcher, making his delivery. We go through Offchurch Berry Gates into the park. Mature grounds in blossom. This is one of the Highland cattle. The Johnsons kept a herd of Highland cattle in the park. This is the Berry House, late Victorian. But when they were rebuilding part of it, digging into the foundations, they found Saxon coins going right back to the time of King Offa. Legend has it that this was the site of Offa's summer palace. The lake by the Berry. Somebody's dog. I wonder whose that could be. These are some of the mares from the Offchurch stud, peacefully grazing in the grounds around the Berry. Shot of the stables, which are now being converted into homes. This is Radford Bottom, as the canal people call it. All driving into the village with the convent on the right and park gates on the left. As we make the right turn, we see the pleached horse chestnuts that surround the church. The retreat house, surrounded by all those leafy elms, which, alas, are no more in Warwickshire since the Dutch elm disease. Along the top of the village, there's Bessie Kane's old cottage on the right. It's now part of Hilltop Cottage. Looking down the village, across the fields. Offchurch used to be a convent, but the sisters grew fewer and older, and now it's called Offchurch House and is a private residence. Valley fields along the Hunningham Road. For many years the home of Eric and Doris Claridge. Eric was a very enthusiastic gardener, and many said a fine one too. His greenhouse showing a wonderful display of begonias. After such a hard day's work, who couldn't resist the temptation of having a rest under the shade of the old cedar tree? This is the cottage. At this time it was the home of Dr. and Mrs. Alderson. They used to open their gardens, and beautiful they were too. We've got a long history of Gardens Open Day here in Offchurch. Even the home of the Passmores. And there's Wisteria Cottage and Tudor Cottage behind it. There's the Nook, now called Nine Hills Cottage, full of roses. The cottages at the top end of the village, and there's Auntie Vi, Mrs. Greaves, kept the post office and the village shop. There's Wisteria Cottage at the bottom of the village. Corner Cottage. Bill Smith, Dr. Alderson's gardener, and his wife May lived there. May Smith continued to live at Corner Cottage after Bill's death, which is in about 1982. This is the garden of Tudor Cottage. Jenny Harris once lived here before moving next door to the bungalow. Ray and Eileen Pullen now occupy Tudor Cottage. Well, High Banks is the home of Audrey and Beernard Ough. A rear view. And up the foss, and that's the Foss Farm where Millie Wright lived to the grand old age of 95. Jean and David Barnes live there now. riding in Offchurch has been going on for many years. The convent used to lease out its stables for livery purposes. A view of the Stag Head, the pub. And this is thatching taking place. We think it's probably at Church Cottage, but can't be sure. The thatcher comes from Leicester, and he did the thatch for Holly Cottage and Wisteria Cottage. He's using combed straw. This is the field behind Church Cottage. And we're looking towards Osier Cottage, right down by the river. I wonder who that could be. And so on to the church fete. There's Mrs. Midgley being sold something by Jenny Harris. And there's Peggy Rogers at the bottom, and Petty Buchan in a pink dress. Betty lived in the bungalow next to Gable House. You lose. There's Beernard Ough, and it could be Betty again. Decorated cycle competition. There are the Lamb daughters. They lived in the Welsh Road then. Now these Scottish dancers aren't all from Offchurch. Church fates. Well, that's another little lamb again on a tricycle. Not sure who the little boy is there, but we know that's Vera Carroll. It looks as if the rain came down and the plastic went up. That's John Selms, son of August Selms. And here's another little lamb. That's Mrs. Ough's teapot. The retreat house had formerly been the vicarage for the parish, but it had long been in disuse. And thanks to the generosity of the Johnsons, it reopened in 1962 as a retreat house for the Diocese of Coventry. Here's Bishop Cuthbert Bardsley. A lot of people attended, not just from the village as well. And there's Mrs. Johnson going inside, followed by the bishop. There's Elizabeth Hume alongside Audrey Ough. And there's Mrs. Johnson and Callum Eccleston. There's Eric Claridge, many years the treasurer of the PCC. It's Colonel Eccleston pointing the way forward. Guess who those gaiters belong to? There's Jack Boswell and Beernard Ough. The bishop seemed to have a word for everybody. As English as cricket, and cricket in Offchurch in those days was played in the field behind railway cottages. The one that got away. That's the Alderson's pub. And that's Mrs. Alderson. Spring at the Haven, the banks aglow with daffodils and narcissi. Village farm where Elizabeth Hume used to live for many years. In the grounds of Village Farm is a very old mulberry tree which is looked after by Kew. This is a magnificent magnolia. Gardens don't look after themselves. Ask Jim and Valerie Graham as they tend the garden of Gable House. Jim tells us that he's still using the same mower today. That's the milk lady, whose name we can't remember. She's at Beernard Ough's cottage, which is now part of Church Cottage. Church Cottage was two cottages at one point. The other one was lived in by Jim Berry. That's Merry Hill House, in those days called the Red House. And there's looking down the hill at Tudor Cottage again, with the Japanese cherry in full bloom. The Cottage. Olwyn Jones and Anne Collishaw taking their dogs for a walk. And that's Evelyn Passmore keeping the garden of the Haven in immaculate condition. That's the tree in front of the stag. It's grown a bit since then, but it still had seats round it even in those days. And that's looking towards Gable House. Somebody who's very proud of his peas. Yes, it's Bill Singleton. These crab apples are deep red and were found at the back of High Banks, the Ough's garden. Getting in the harvest. Now that's August Selms on the tractor, and Roy Heffer, who lived at Manor House, was on the combine harvester. He's steering it with his one good arm. Bill and his son Alan. Bill Jones used to live in Holly Cottage. At the end of the cricket season they'd take up the stumps and erect goalposts because this was the football pitch. Offchurch playing in the dark red strip. Problem of agricultural football. The Jack Russell Terrier belonged to Jack Boswell, and that's Mrs. Boswell. snowfall that winter was the worst for the whole of the decade. Safer to film indoors. Temperatures were below freezing. It froze the river and the lake and the canal. Mrs. Denham from Osier Cottage with her poodle. And outside the stag there's George Gibbons and Bill Singleton and Bill Singleton's son. Alf Berry on the left. Something warming, no doubt. That's Anne Collishaw. And we think that's her brother Nick. That's a dangerous game, sliding down that steep hill. In winter, transformed by the snow and the ice on the branches of the trees. Park gates, almost unrecognizable. The Offchurch Bridge over the frozen River Lem. Offchurch's own roadman. Nobody can remember his name, but they remember what a good job he did. Bessie Kane on her way to the standpipe with her buckets. Now that's the igloo. We think that that was done by the children of Offchurch School on School Field. The frozen Grand Union Canal, the Foss Lock. Bottom lock. Berry Park, seen from Berry Gates. Everybody's come out to see the river which has broken its banks. Horses can get through, but can cars? That's Alan Jones on his bike. And that's Margaret Jones and Pat Hawker Lil Wen and her sister Verley. There's Fred Morton on the right. And the 4 young ladies of Offchurch. Eccleston making the point, and it's very cold in church without central heating. That boiler gave us good service for over 30 years.